How do you redefine and reimagine a character that is so beloved and has such a lengthy comic book history stretching all the way back to 1940? How do you condense all of that history into a brand new package for new viewers and a new audience to see? Definitely not like how the Ultimate Comics did it, because they did a terrible job at understanding the core of Captain America. They traded modern nihilism and edginess for what is supposed to be a hero that is a beacon of hope. Basically, they pulled a Zack Snyder. So with that in mind, it came down to modernizing the character, but staying true to his core values. And when it was time for the MCU to adapt Captain America for the very first time in 2011, they had to strike a balance of doing new and exciting things with the character like Ultimate's universe tried and failed doing, while also holding true to what Captain America is in his beliefs, his demeanor, and his character in general. Marvel achieved this by giving us a version of Captain America that is not so different from what we're used to, but has enough changes to justify it being a brand new take on the character, and it all starts with Captain America, the first Avenger. This is how Marvel redefined Captain America for the modern day. When we meet Captain America for the first time, he is portrayed as exactly what you would expect, the scrawny and weak dude with a heart of gold. I mean, they even go the extra step to show us his medical chart, and it's really bad. He has just about every single fever and disease that you could catch during the 1940s and survive with, that don't include STDs, because this man can't get a girl to save his life. His words, not mine. And yet, despite all of this, and despite being denied for the fourth time in his application to join the war, he continues to keep applying. This is something that I think is very notable and cool that the movie included, because it has come out, especially in more recent years, that a lot of people lied to fight during World War II. They were underage. Some were 16 and 15 years old, but lied to be 18 years old. A lot of people lied about their medical conditions in order to join up. This was something that I felt was really dope for the movie to add. And all of this because Steve doesn't just want to carry a pail, collect tin and metal. He wants to be a hero. And this is pointed out in the very next scene where he picks a fight with a bully and loses. But we get his, what is now, iconic line.
I can do this all day.
It's a phenomenal setup for Captain America. In the first few scenes we see him, you get to see exactly what kind of character he's in. He's the little guy that wants to stand up to the bullies no matter how far away they are. He has a strong moral compass and is willing to put himself in dangerous positions for that. But it is also in this back alley scene that we get one of the biggest changes to Captain America's mythos in these movies, and that is with Bucky Barnes. When Bucky was introduced for the first time in Marvel Comics, he was used as Captain America's child sidekick. A lot of superheroes around that time, specifically 1941, were getting child sidekicks of their own, so it was only natural that Captain America did. To make Bucky an adult is to subvert the entire identity of Bucky Barnes as a character. He is no longer the tragic sidekick lost due to Hydra's, being Hydra, but rather he is a full-fledged adult that is best friends with Steve Rogers, somebody that grew up with him and no longer makes Steve alone. As we have come to find out in the movie, Steve's mom and dad are both gone. He has been an orphan for a while at this point, but he's always had Bucky. It gives the relationship an entirely new dynamic and also gives Bucky a brand new space to occupy in the Captain America mythos, rather than just being an allegory for child soldier or a lost prodigy that would once later come back as the Winter Soldier. It opens up new avenues for the character, and I find it to be very interesting, even if it's not comic book accurate. I also believe it helps to serve this Captain America a lot, especially in the story that they're trying to tell, considering Cap cannot join the military, but his best friend is going off to war to fight and die. That's something that we see echoed when everywhere you go in this movie, you see Americanized propaganda for joining up for World War II. He can't even participate in the draft, which was going on currently, and that bugs him. He has to look into the silhouette of a soldier and he can't even see himself there. And maybe, just maybe, Steve has something that he wants to prove by joining up in the war, by standing up and saying even the little guy can do it.
I got no right to do any less than them. That's what you don't understand. This isn't about me.
Right. because you got nothing to prove.
But that is all overshadowed by the one thing that he truly believes he needs to do, and that is to help save lives, even if it means losing his own. To have the autonomy to make the decision for himself. We see a Steve that, from what we can gather, has had to deal with what life has thrown at him without any sort of autonomy. He's just had to go along with what happens, and that's not Steve's character, and it's not the way he likes to operate. At every turn, he tries to fight against it, and this is his biggest way to push against that opposition. The entire world is telling him he is too small, he is too weak, and that he does not have the heart for war, and this is Steve standing up in front of everyone and showing them that he does and that he can. So yes, maybe he does have something to prove, but does that make him any worse off as a character, or any worse as Captain America? And this idea is well defined in the very next scene. We see that Dr. Abraham had been overhearing and listening to Steve's chat with Bucky the entire time. And so when Steve once again tries and fails to apply for the military, he is confronted by Dr. Abraham, who asks him one simple question: do you want to kill Nazis? And Steve's answer is what truly sold me on his character in this movie.
I don't want to kill anyone. I don't like bullies. I don't care where they're from.
Cap, unlike a lot of other heroes, has never had a no-kill rule. It's never been anything for him. I mean, he participated in World War II after all. But it's the idea that he isn't there because he wants to kill other people, but rather because he wants to stand up for the justice and rights of others, is what makes it so special for his character. It's part of the reason I love him as a character so much, and I'm so glad the movie got this right. We could have easily fallen into the tropes of just being a good soldier or being a tool for government propaganda, as every X-Men writer seems to think he is, when that's not who Captain America is at all. Fundamentally, he is the weak, scrawny guy that gains powers, and because he was at one point in his life weak and scrawny, he knows the value of those powers. He knows the value of doing things unconventionally. For example, we see that with the flagpole in this movie. If any one of the soldiers could get to the top of the flagpole and get the flag down, they ain't gotta do any more running. Everybody tries to climb it. Steve just unhooks it. It's simple for him. It is a different way of thinking and a different mindset. He isn't the physical specimen that the army wants. He isn't a good soldier that just follows orders. Rather, he is a man with a strong moral compass and a willingness to do good no matter the cost. And this is shown in another scene that was just created for the movie.
He's big, he's fast, he obeys orders, he's a soldier.
He's a bully.
You don't win wars with niceness, Doctor. You win wars with guts.
This scene is beautiful and also does a lot to try and help modernize Cap, and we see him as far more empathetic. We don't get a whole lot of Cap training in the military and the army during his first few appearances in the 1940s. Rather, we met a Captain America that was already established. This movie goes out of its way to flesh out the character more during this time in this setting. Sure, we spend less time focused on his adventures like he was going on in the 1940s, but rather we focus more on the core of the character. Another praise I have for this movie is its willingness to have scenes that would just slow down and talk. It didn't feel like there had to be jokes in the middle of the scene or at the end of them. It didn't feel as though they needed to speed run this segment to get to the next big action set piece. As a matter of fact, the first act of this movie is fairly slow outside of some Hydra footage. And we get lovely dialogue like this from the Doctor.
Because a strong man who has known power all his life may lose respect for that power, but a weak man knows the value of strength and knows compassion.
I also think this movie handles Peggy as a character a lot better than those original Captain America comic books have. And of course, more modern interpretations of the character have handled Peggy far better. I do really like what this movie decided to do with her character by making her a mainstay throughout this first movie, and by also giving her, well, an actual character outside of just being Steve's love interest. It's a part of modernizing the take on this character. I also really like the idea that Steve has just never had a dance in his life, and he's low-key a bit of a loser.
Didn't seem to matter that much. Figured I'd wait.
For what?
Right partner.
I'm gonna kind of gloss over his transformation into being Cap because, well, I don't think it's that relevant for this video. And other than saying that like the CGI was great to put Chris Evans' face on that small man's body, it really had me believing as a kid that Chris Evans actually transformed into Captain America. And I mean, just look at how yoked he is. It's actually insane. But like any great comic book character, it's about time that he had his Uncle Ben moment and has to lose the doctor that helped make him who he is. A doctor that was good, that was genuine and wanted what was best for the world. Dr. Abraham quite literally chose Captain America because he was the correct man. The serum amplifies whatever's inside of you, and he went out of his way to choose the right person this time after being forced to give it to everybody's favorite, Red Skull. Either way, what I love about this scene from a Captain America standpoint is his immediate recognition to go for the little guy, to help save the child. That was phenomenal. Also, shout out to this kid for knowing how to swim and letting Cap go on about his business. And now is about time for Captain America to get to doing what he signed up to do, to help his country by fighting the Nazis across the world. He is finally ready to move forward, only to discover that Captain America is nothing more than a face for propaganda. A way to tell the American populace, hey, you need to donate these things, you need to conserve electricity, you need to conserve food, we're rationing, donate to your soldiers. He is nothing more than a dancing monkey, and that's all that Captain America was. I like the homage to the original suit being placed in here. I also like the idea that this is a perversion of what Cap wanted to do. He could have easily done a majority of this from home. He could have collected the medals. He could have told people to buy stocks and bonds. He could have done all of this. He could have bought stocks and bonds himself. He signed up to the military so he could be on the front lines fighting like everybody else was. This was a perversion of everything he wanted to do as a character, and it also harkens back to the originality of what Captain America was made for. He was made as wartime propaganda, and also as a little subtle dig at America itself for not participating in the war overseas, as the comic books came out during the 40s before we were ever even actually involved in the war. Correction, 1940, not just the 40s. I mean, this never happened in the comics in the slightest, but I think thematically for the movie, it's phenomenal. And I love the way in which it's portrayed for this version of Captain America. It does a wonderful job at giving us another insight and adding a layer to the character that didn't necessarily exist during this time period of his existence. A lot of these new character ideas and aspects came during his time after being thawed, after the 1960s, rather than being during his time in the 40s. A lot of the modern Captain America we know and love today comes after being pulled out of the ice. This movie is making that prior to the ice, and I absolutely love that. But all of this would change when Captain America finds out that unfortunately Bucky has been captured and is currently being experimented on along with his entire platoon, and that's when he sets out to go and save them. Again, finding a clever way to bake Sharon Carter into the story and to continue to help her build as a character and helping Captain America throughout the movie, and to be more than just his love interest once again, something I thought this movie did a pretty good job of. I also like the idea that Cap's suit is just the one he was wearing previously, but dolled up a little bit to be a bit more tactical. Another thing that I love about this section of the movie is how perfectly it sets up the Winter Soldier and his comeback for future movies. Because he was already captured by Arnim Zola, already experimented on, he's already been hit with Arnim Zola's version of the super soldier serum. It's why he survives later in the movie, but we'll get to that. I truly do love that the idea that Bucky is already an adult and the idea that the Winter Soldier already exists as a character allows the filmmakers to frame the story in a more linear fashion, as the Winter Soldier actually didn't appear in comics until 2005, which means he's only as old as I am, and I'm 19. So that is a pretty fun and unique way to twist the narrative. It also helps because by making Bucky an adult, you can do something like this. because I don't think they do this to a child in a PG-13 movie, at least around about this time. It's also at this point in the movie we get to see Johann Schmidt, aka the Red Skull, and man, the prosthetics and makeup on this guy were phenomenal. I mean, all practical almost, and it just looks fantastic. I also love the use of the OG shield and that homage there before he gets his adamantium vibranium one, even though in this movie it's only vibranium because Fox and rights, and man, I hated that Marvel sold off the rights. I'm getting off track. It was in this victory that Captain America was able to not only rally the battalion that Bucky had, but was also able to cement himself as a true super soldier. He wasn't just a lab rat, he wasn't just a pretty experiment to throw in front of everyone and parade around, but rather to be an actual soldier, to do the one thing that he had always wanted to do, which was to protect the people on the front lines. And Captain America finally gets to do this. And so we get to see a really dope montage of Captain America being Captain America. This is usually the portion in the story where we'd find a majority of Captain America's comic books from the 1940s to take place. This movie decides to gloss over a majority of it though, as it's not really that important to the story of the character. We also get to see him get his vibranium shield, something that he doesn't really get in the 1940s comics. He gets it far later when he's thawed out. So to add it back during this point in time was really cool. As well, we get to see his little band of misfits, and they're pretty cool, but I'm gonna be so for real, they're pretty like unintentional to his character in this film and unfortunately in future films. One of the things I feel like this version of Captain America actually missed on was that his little group of misfit soldiers was truly important to Captain America when he comes back in. Oh my god, is that Damien Dark? I did not realize Damien Dark was playing Dum Dum Dugan. Sorry, got completely off track. As I was saying previously, that battalion was really important to Steve, and when he goes back to modern day and finds they're all dead, that was really important for him. That's just kind of glossed over, unfortunately, in the MCU. That mainly has to do with the fact that the movie that would precede the first Captain America wasn't a second Cap movie, but rather Avengers, so we have to infer that he did all of this, you know, during the time in between Avengers and this movie taking place. Now, I will say this. This is possibly my favorite Captain America suit. I actually think the Winter Soldier version of this suit is better, but I think the suit looks phenomenal, and as a mostly comic book accurate but modern revision suit, it looks really good. Because at this time, the most comic accurate suit we'd ever gotten was really Iron Man, and before that were the 2000s X-Men movies, which were notorious for refusing to wear the cool looking costumes, and before that were the 70s movies, which I would say, yes, did look comic accurate for the most part, except Cap's. Cap's looked horrible. So as far as we are in the timeline now, I absolutely love how this suit looks. But it's unfortunately on this mission that we would lose Bucky Barnes. Bucky would end up giving his life to protect Steve, and unfortunately meeting his early demise. This echoes very much the death of Bucky Barnes as the child soldier in the comics, but rather gives it a bit of a more tragic twist from a personal standpoint for Steve, because that was his only friend, like his entire life. He had always had him. And while it is very sad to lose your child soldier, someone you had dedicated your life to protecting on the battlefield, this is another type of pain. And I think it's one that audiences could relate to just a smidge more, due to the fact that I don't think they would have shown a child getting murked at all for this movie, especially with how early into the MCU's life cycle we were. I absolutely love the pacing of this movie because the scene after this takes a second to breathe and to slow down. It gives us a second to see Cap and how he is dealing with the death of what was, in all honesty, his only left family. Like, Bucky was his family at the end of the day, and this is what he had left. I absolutely love the idea of taking it slow in a moment like this and not just rushing to the next action scene. This movie was just so well done. And of course, Peggy coming in with one of the best lines for dealing with the grief of a character like this.
Did you believe in your friend? Did you respect him? Then stop blaming yourself. Allow Barnes the dignity of his choice. He damn well must have thought you were worth it.
I'm going after Schmidt. I'm not gonna stop till all of Hydra's dead or captured.
As for the actual final act of the movie, I don't really have a lot to say about it. I mean, this movie was already great leading up to the final act, and it was wonderful going through. We got the payoff of the I can do this all day. We got to see Steve taking down Red Skull. We have to get an entirely new reason for Steve going into the ice, as Bucky's not around for him to actually fall in. This movie also does a great job of tying in the Tesseract to initiate what is going to be the beginning of the Infinity Saga. That's wonderful as well, though how much of that was planned versus just made for good writing in the back end, I don't think we'll ever really know. Either way, it's also worth noting that like Steve going into the ice was just a big retcon. Originally, Steve was still going on adventures after Bucky's death in like the 1940s and stuff, and like that was kind of it. He just stopped punching Nazis and instead were punching communists. But when wanting to bring him into the Avengers, it was easier to retcon him and say that he had been on ice for a few years, so that had changed some point in like the 1960s when Captain America came back into relevance as an Avenger. And in this movie, they obviously went with the route of just sending him into the water after successfully stopping Red Skull from blowing up the eastern seaboard of the United States. I mean, he had a lot of bombs that were Tesseract powered. It would have been really nasty. And as well, we get a lovely ending message between both Sharon and Steve. It's an absolutely wonderful way to end the movie off.
A week next Saturday at the Stork Club.
You got it.
8 o'clock on the dot. Don't you dare be late. Understood?
You know, I still don't know how to dance.
I'll show you how. Just be there.
It's a wonderful way to put an ending on what was already, in my opinion, a fantastic movie, and a great way to start a film trilogy. The next time we see Cap, he's been fully de-thawed from the ice, and is currently trying to figure out why he's in a room listening to a baseball game that had happened months, and I mean months before. And so rather than try and figure that out, he realizes it's probably a scheme of some sort, and ultimately runs out into the brand new world to figure out that he's now in the land of 2011 instead of like 1944 or 1945. It's absolutely insane to think about, but this represents him as a man out of time. And one of the biggest criticisms I have for this version of Cap is him being a man out of time is somewhat glossed over in his trilogy and in the Avengers movies, despite making funny jokes and references and him writing down stuff in the second movie to watch and get caught up on. Steve himself is ultimately glossed over in that portion of the character. And I think a lot of that just happens to come from the fact that the next movie preceding this is Avengers, and that's just the natural course of things. And while unfortunate, I don't think it's really that huge of a knock, because they found other fun and creative things to do with Captain America that I came to love in the MCU.
You gonna be okay?
Yeah, I had a date.
I have a lot of love for this version of Captain America because it was the first version of the character that I had really latched on to growing up as a kid. I remember going to see this movie in theaters with my dad. It was a phenomenal experience, and it got me really excited for the character of Captain America. I'm just so thankful that they got so much of this character right, and when I have to go back and watch this movie, which I haven't watched since probably 2013, I'm not left feeling disappointed. It is just as good as I remember it being in 2011 when I saw it. It's like being a little kid again for just a little while. And Chris Evans put on a performance of a lifetime, in my opinion, to play Captain America, not only in this movie, but in the MCU at large. The MCU redefined the character of Captain America, not by doing something flashy and brand new and outrageous like the Ultimate Comics tried, but rather in grounding the character and making small and slight changes to modernize him as a person and making a few bigger changes for the sake of audience retention. So thank you all so much for watching. If you liked the video, please leave a like, helps out the channel a lot. If you want to sub, it's free, you can always unsubscribe later. If you want to dislike the video, that's cool too, as long as you leave some constructive criticism down below to help me be a better content creator for all of you. As well, I do run a Patreon, which for $1 a month, you can see these videos early and unedited, so whatever copyright changes I have to make to the footage on screen does not get made for the Patreon version of the video. And as well, you guys can see the videos a little bit earlier, typically about a day earlier. And as well, they do have like a $5 tier where I shout out the people at the end of each and every one of my videos that is in it, so it's about time for that. So shout out John, shout out Demetrius Youngblood, shout out Metal Monk, shout out West Belladonna, shout out Oscar, shout out McGann, shout out eSeparate13, Video Gamer 75, Gabriel LaFonte, Transgers1, Golden Boy 420, Dakota Ross, and Donovan Gomez, and MC Bomb 27. You all are amazing. Hope you all have an absolutely fantastic day.